Hello, mate.
How are you, mate? You all right?
Good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah, I can. You're a little bit in the dark. You look like something off Crime Watch where you don't want to be identified.
Well, that's a whole other story. How's that? Is that a bit better?
There you go. There you go.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Look at that. How are you, mate? Nice
Top
to
man.
see you.
You too. Good God, it's been
It's been a very long time, Pat.
I came back 2009.
I can't believe it's been that long.
So I wasn't going to tell any lurid stories if I thought it was recording.
Some people don't care. Some people are a little bit more coy with what they say, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because stories are stories without getting too dodgy. But it's just funny. And I almost should do this in 20 more years when everyone started retiring and no one cares anymore.
There's some great poetry out there about like old women spitting in the street, and it's so true. It's weird, isn't it? Because like in some things we care more and more about, and other things it's like,
It seems to be as well that we're all kind of charting different paths now as well. So we're all trying to do something new, whether we've been doing it for a couple of years or we're just getting involved. So we don't kind of want to burn our reputation too much by saying too much straight off the bat. But you never know.
No.
Sometimes some of it kind of meshes in. Some of it doesn't need to be said ever again. And again, sometimes I look about it. I'm grateful that I grew up in an age when there wasn't any camera phones.
Yeah.
And
I've been talking to people this week. I mean, God Almighty, the change is incredible. When I went, I didn't have a mobile phone until I went out with UK Elite. I remember like arriving there, and these 10-year-olds were walking around, and I was like, "It's like another planet."
Yeah,
another planet. But it's all good. Are you doing okay? You're enjoying things?
Yeah, mate. I'm doing all right. I'm still doing the same sort of stuff, like professional plate spinning. It's nice.
Got a few things on the go. I think that's nice, isn't it? It's to have a bit of variety.
You just never know, Pat. Like, I'm sure maybe we get into it as well. You just never know what is going to happen and what's going to come up around the corner. And I'm just trying to keep myself as relevant as possible, mate. So if an opportunity comes, I can go.
You just don't know. You don't know what the next day brings. Like you just. I was saying to somebody yesterday, it was one of my students, and she's like 16, 17, whatever. We were talking about the future, and I said, "Listen, don't worry about it too much. What career, because you're probably going to have several. Most people at the age of 16, 17 haven't got a clue how their lives are going to turn out." I said to her, it's good to have an idea of where you want to start, but I can guarantee in 20 years' time, it won't look like you thought it might look like. No way.
No, speaking of being open, did you look at all the questions I sent?
One of the things I realised is how little I look back and how little I do reflect on the journey. But it is nice to do. I've actually enjoyed. I had a half hour this morning over coffee looking at them, and I was like, okay, what would I do with that one? And and I was chuckling to myself. I was like, I've got a clue. I'm not going to answer that one. I was like, Gary, you'll have a better idea than I will about that. And I sometimes think other people would be able to answer those things about me better than I would. It's not all of them, some of them.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I agree with you there, mate. I think I always try and think that you can't quite quantify what you've done. Sometimes you need a commentator to tell you. Like I have Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson is my commentator. Like he basically tells me what I've done, and I'm like, oh yeah, now you mention it, yeah, I've done that. And but we all need that, don't we? Sometimes I think
so.
Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where we talk to people from all walks of life, artists, educators, entrepreneurs, and adventurers, to explore the stories and lessons that can help you understand yourself, others, and create meaningful change in your own life. We welcome Pat McCarry to the show this week, an educator, coach, and leadership mentor whose career has taken him from the classrooms of Wales and England to coaching and curriculum development roles across the globe. After training at Loughborough University, Pat has spent decades working in education, teacher development, elite coaching, and executive leadership. His journeys included designing curricula in Thailand, developing coaches in the United States, and researching leadership through the culture of the legendary New Zealand All Blacks. Today, Pat combines executive coaching with his passion for mathematics, helping people think differently about both leadership and learning. Go back to Swansea.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up? What were you like growing up?
Yeah, I was very sporty, very, very active, very hyper. I never walked anywhere, I ran everywhere, got in trouble at school for talking all the time, So I was very lively, very achievement orientated. I wanted to be the best at running, at swimming, at studies. I was a violinist, quite a serious violinist by the age of 16. But the thing, what happened with all that was by the time I was about 12 or 13, every day to me seemed like full of moments of success or failure. Like everything, like a test result, a performance on the violin. I just felt like I was being tested all the time. A school exam, a race. I didn't even like running. But back then I was very, very good. So they used to enter me in loads of things. So I felt stressed a lot of the time. I was very lively, very sort of aggressive in some ways, like towards success. But I was stressed a lot of the time and I'd say pretty racked with self-doubt. I was confident in what I could do, but about myself personally, I had a lot of self-doubt.
Is that something that is quite common for younger people, you think? Like, you think about that quite a bit? Because I'm thinking about it in the school environment I'm in now, and there are kids who are in the same, I'm in a high achieving district at our school, sports and academics, and there are kids that get down on themselves quite a bit. Like, it does seem to be quite a common thread, doesn't it, that?
I think I think for many reasons, it's even worse now. I think it's much worse. I think the pressure on kids, I did a lot of work on the Princeton area, West Windsor. Oh my God, pressure on those kids in that area. Very good school district. Do you know when I work with students, because I see this all the time. It's almost like I'm coaching me. It's like, the student opposite me who's nervous about her exam, or the kid who says, well, I don't think I'm very good at this, or like, I feel like reaching out because I'm like, God, it's almost like quite cathartic to reach out and give someone what I really would like to have had. Because back then, no one was tuned in to anxiety you just like got on with it, didn't you? Like now you've got terms like anxiety and depression and ADHD, back then it was like you're being lazy or you're messing around or let's just get on with things. And sort of like now it's just it's far more out there. And yeah, I see it with a lot of my students, a lot of them autistic, ADHD, anxiety. Several of my students don't even go to school.
It's becoming a common theme, that I think. I'm seeing that a little bit over here as well. Like kids and again, for whatever reason, they are stepping into this homeschooling aspect.
Yeah.
I love that what you've just said, because it directly correlates with stuff that I think about. Like the way that I am in a classroom is how I wish people were like me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I really like, that's really hit me, that one, because I genuinely believe that. And I think that's why I am the way I am in the classroom as well. But what did you love about learning? I mean, the competition side of it and everything, obviously. But what did you love about learning at that stage?
Well, the truth is, not much. I did very well at school. I did well because I had quite a strict dad. And I just was quite competitive. So if they were like school exams coming up, I was like, well, I'm not going to do poorly in these. I'm going to hammer it out. I'll do whatever it takes to get high marks. Same with the running, same with the football, same with the violin. I didn't enjoy any of it. I didn't enjoy the thing of, since I left school, I'm a huge, passionate learner. Everything. Like there's not enough hours in the day for what I want to learn. But back then, the reason I didn't enjoy learning, I don't think I was on my own with that. It was a production line. Schools, and some have changed and some haven't. You were in there, teachers stood at the front, they threw knowledge at you. Back then, we even dictated. They'd say, you are a such and such student, and for half an hour, you'd be writing, because there was no photocopies back there, and I hated that. I was like, this is boring. There's no connection with the teacher. There was a couple of teachers, my history teacher, I really liked him, but a lot of them, it seemed, they were brought up in this idea of like, you just put stuff out to the children. You tell them what this compound is in chemistry. You tell them how to do quadratic equations in maths. You tell them everyone was tell. And I was like, what's missing here is attunement, connection, relationship. I had no sense of curiosity or being provoked or being inspired it just wasn't that. It was just a place I felt like Pink Floyd, The Wall, and so again, it's really interesting because you've said to me, perhaps what were inspiring figures, what were mentors. The mentors for me were people not doing what I thought would work. And I would look and go, right, I'll do that differently. I'll do that. If ever I work with children, I will look to inspire them, engage them, provoke them. I will find out what's going on in their heads whilst I'm talking. This is going to be like a dynamic, inspiring, provocative conversation, whether I'm teaching history, maths, whatever it is, and they're going to want to go away quickly and find out what we were talking about and finding more about, and I always use that as a yardstick. It's like, if they came back, I said, did you check out what we spoke about last time? And if they said yes, I was like, okay, we've hit the mark.
What did leadership? So you go through school, you go to Loughborough, am I right?
Yeah.
Which again was like this, the gold standard of teaching, as far as I was concerned in the UK. And you go through that, and you do finally step into leadership roles after Loughborough, am I right?
Yeah. So I was going to say, after Loughborough, I went into secondary school teaching. So I didn't immediately go into a senior management role, although I think a teacher is a leader by the very nature of what they're doing.
Yeah.
However, I didn't go into sort of senior management probably for another 5 years.
But even going into that classroom, like you said then, as a leader, what did that look like early on for you? Were you ready when you went into the classroom, or were the things that caught you out early as a teacher?
Yeah, I think, I was like, in that first year of teaching, I was like, I'm home. This is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm meant to be doing. The only other place I'd feel alive like that is on the football field. I was like, wow, I'm loving this. I love the kids. I love the idea of like how to make this interesting. So I love experimenting in the classroom, trying different things out. So yeah, this is me. I was probably happier in that first year than I'd been probably since the age of about 10. I was like, I'm not sitting in a chair listening to anybody anymore. I'm out there trying to do it my way. I guess the one thing which is difficult, and I think everybody finds it, is part of you wants to be their friend when you first start. Because
especially
I was 22.
At young age. Young age.
Yeah, you're 22 and you've got these, secondary schools, you've got 17, 18-year-olds around you, 16-year-olds. And, so some of them saw you as young, and it's like, I just think there is that thing initially maybe. And I saw all the coaches I worked with in America, because you start to see a pattern. And there's this thing of like, they were the students, they've maybe not done something like this before, they feel a bit isolated and lonely, they want to be friends with the students because they don't want the students thinking badly of them. And then, of course, kids are very clever with boundaries. They're very, very clever. And they'll go, right, oh, he's quite a nice guy. If I throw something out there, my classmates will think it's clever. He won't respond to it, and I'll get a bit of status. So I think one of the things I learned in that first year is you don't have to go and be a bastard. Like some say, start off being a bastard. I don't think that's quite accurate, but you do have to kind of like start off firm and just don't laugh too much at the start. Don't, so I think, so I learned those two things. That was a lesson in like, you don't have to be their friends, but you want respect. But secondly, I was like, wow, I'm on fire. Like some of these lessons, I'm just in my element.
No, I'm listening to you now, and I'm half hoping that some of the younger teachers that I work with will listen to this as well and pick up pointers, because you're right. Like, you don't have to be an absolute bastard, but you have to be a little bit of one at the same time. It's a fine balance at the beginning, because it's always nicer to come back from that, or easier to come back from that. So you do the teaching for a number of years, and then is it right that you went to Thailand at that point?
Yeah. So I worked in secondary school for a bit, and then I worked in primary school, upper end of primary school, 7 or 8 years. So for the last sort of 3 or 4 years of that, I was in the senior management role. That's always a challenge, because I was like 27 or whatever, and other people that went for that job were in their 40s and 50s. And so now I'm in that job, I'm going and assessing them teaching. These people have been teaching for 20 odd years, 30 years. And I'm going in there writing a report, an assessment. So this was the first challenge I think we've touched upon leadership, is like, okay, I know I'm very strong in the classroom. I know I'm respected for that, the parents, the head teacher and all that. But now I've got to assess 50-year-olds and sit down with them and go through their session of like, and I found this hard at the start, is this thing of like, well, I kind of want to be popular. I don't want like all the staff turning on me, this 27-year-old. But I always had very strong ideas about education and how I thought a good lesson looked, or good. So, if I'm not seeing them doing it what I thought was the right way, it's a real difficult balance when you're young to step into leadership roles with people who are older. So I thought that was a challenge. So yeah, I had that going on. and then off to Thailand.
So how did that come about?
The Thailand thing, I found that after about 7 or 8 years in Wales, because I was in the town, I was in Swansea, gone back to where I grew up. And I just felt in a rut. I just felt, okay, I'm in this leadership position. I was seeing a young lady. I bought a house. It just felt the last 2 or 3 years there, nothing was changing. I was like, I don't want to be a head teacher. I knew that. I knew I didn't really want to stay in Swansea. And I was like, oh, God. And I was feeling pretty low. And then somebody I knew had been out to Thailand and through coincidence had done a bit of work at this college. He was, a good friend of mine. He said, well, look, they're crying out for English teachers here. They're crying out for people to run the English department, to head up director of study. He said, how about it? I was like, definitely, let's do it. So it didn't take me a minute to say, boom, let's get out of here. That was it. Literally, March 98, I think it was. There was me flying out to Thailand. The night before that, my last 11-a-side game in Britain, I played at the Vetch Field, Swansea's old ground, in the West Wales Cup final. And then literally, I haven't seen a lot of those boys ever since. Up in the morning, off to Thailand.
That's ridiculous. So that's quite the turnaround. For you personally, South Wales, West Wales for the most of the part, and then all of a sudden you're in Thailand, teaching in a different culture. I'm presuming oh, look at the size of that thing. Jesus. That is massive.
Isn't he? He's a big boy.
How old's the cat? How old's that?
That's Gary, that is. He's
the cat is Gary or I'm Gary?
No, his name's he's Sonny after Sonny Corleone.
Oh, Sonny,
The Godfather.
I'm thinking Sonny Young.
He does look like Sonny, actually, doesn't he?
Yeah. Sonny's got a lot less hair nowadays. So what?
Brilliant.
So when you get to, so for you personally, going to Thailand and stepping into this new culture, were you all for it? Was it just, again, another chance to learn and sort of put your stamp on where you were going?
One part of me was all for it, and another part was like, what? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You're going like how many thousands of miles away from home? I didn't know anyone there. It was just, I think, as I said, because things had got sort of, I just couldn't imagine staying where I was. And so, sometimes if you can't imagine that, and then someone says, do this, and it's like, well, I'd rather make that jump. So, yeah, one part of me was pretty terrified. Another part was like, sod it, let's go. Let's do it. You can always go back if you wanted to, you can always go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was very excited, but oh my God, yeah, there was a part of me that was pretty nervous.
Was it a common thing, that, Pat? Like, anyone from round yours go anywhere else? Like you talk about playing at the Vetch the day before with all the players, and then, oh, lads, I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to Thailand. Are they like, all right, nice one? Or were they like, you what?
Do you know what? If I'd have said to them, I'm off to the moon, it would have had the same reaction.
Right.
They were like, what? They were like, but why? Why? They literally couldn't speak when they heard it. They was like, they really didn't get it at all, because they were like, they call Swansea the graveyard of ambition because the Gower's beautiful. People are laid back there. You're not surrounded by people who are talking ambition. You're just not. They're great with the crack. Probably like your neck of the woods. It's about having a laugh, bit of football, bit of rugby, a few pints, pull someone on a weekend. They're not talking about creating a business or going off to America so they just, they just thought I was an alien. I mean, they just really couldn't get. It's really funny because there's a lot of them I've never seen since.
That's funny, isn't it? And that's a long time. When you get to Thailand, then, here's a question for you. So, you talk about when you were in school and you were a kid and you felt like, you were just another brick and you were just another thing. Did working in different systems in Thailand or in different places, did it challenge your assumptions about teaching and learning? Did it give you a fresh perspective, fresh eyes in a different place?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, and sometimes good, sometimes, but yes, there's always a different perspective, which always has an influence. And so my job, I had a couple of lessons with kids, and then my main job was to design curricula, assess teachers, which has been a kind of theme through my life, really. And so the first class I go into, I said, well, have you got a curriculum? No, we don't do things like that. No, we haven't. I said, you haven't got a curriculum? You got nothing for me to... No, just teach them English. So, you go in and there's 60 of them, 60 or 70 of them in rows. It was like going into a Victorian school. So you're there, just bizarre. And then there'd be a Thai lady there as a translator, if I needed her, holding a stick. And you were working with these kids, and they were used to sort of chanting, and they were used to sort of like, this was going back to the Victorian times, really, of like, my name is John. And they all go, my name is John. And I go, how are you? And they go, how are you? And honestly, it's just like, because I've seen them doing it. I was like, well, I'm not teaching that way. I'm not teaching that way. So I'd be throwing out questions like I'd say, and what I did, before I started teaching, I got photos of all the classes, the classes I was going to be teaching. I put names next to every kid. I learned them in my residence. So when I went in that classroom, I knew every kid's name. And so some kid would speak. I say, hey, Natawa. And you could see the look of like the whole lot of them. He knows our names, because the Thai teachers didn't know their names. The Thai teachers didn't care about their names. It just was this, I understood, because it's 60 kids. It's chaotic. And so I would say like, well, how are you? What's going on? And they say, I am fine. I said, no, don't do that. How are you? You just, again, I was like passionate about, I don't want you to speak like a robot. I want you to speak like, so I would get them into little groups, and they'd never done this before, but they get into groups and they had to like ask each other questions and write it down. And so I was sort of looking at how formal it was and how it was so different to how I'd been trained and how different to how I wanted to be trained. And then things like, okay, like one of them would make me shout out or whatever, and the teacher would go, like, you get out here. I'd be like, good God, like, the teacher would come out. She said, wah! And the kid would put his hand out, whack! She flipped and had this big long stick, whacked him over the hand. And this kid's like, ah. I was like, oh my God, it's like going back in time. I was like, if I'd done this in a classroom back home, I'd be out. You'd be like in court or something. And I said to her, I don't want you to do that. And she said, that's what we do. I said, yeah, but I don't want you to do that in my classroom. I know where you're doing it, but please don't hit them here. We can tell them off. And this is a challenge, isn't it? Because I've now gone into a different system, and I'm doing it differently because of my sort of strong ideas about education and about how you treat human beings. And they just had their own system. But you've now got this thing of like, when we talk about this in leadership, it's like, okay, I'd like to lead this thing forward, and sort of, but how much can you fight against the way it already is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was one of the challenges. Yeah, like things like, so the cultural piece. So I think you become more sensitive. Like, so if you tell a kid off in Thailand, they'll smile at you.
Oh, yeah?
They'll smile back at you, right? Yeah, they'll smile at you. And you're like, so I saw some of the teachers that I used to assess go absolutely ballistic if one of these kids smiled at them. They'd go ballistic. And then I'd say to the Thai that says, why did they smile? You tell them off. They say, oh, they're trying to calm you down. They're trying to tell you everything's okay. You don't need to get angry. You don't need to, they understand. And I was like, bang, goodness gracious. How's that for a learning experience? Like, if we go in expecting things to be as we think they should be, and we're not sensitive to the environment, we're making a lot of assumptions. And that particular thing there was quite important to me. It's like, when you go into a culture or a different place or don't assume anything.
Yeah, because if that was at home and you're smiling at someone while they're shouting at you, you're getting a belt, aren't you? Or you're starting
one
a fight
of our teachers,
something.
One of the teachers over there, a Welsh guy actually, from the valleys, you could tell. One of these kids smiled at him and sort of like grinned and giggled a bit. And this teacher, British teacher, got this stick and whacked him across the back, across here, like whacked this kid across the back. And now he did get in trouble for that. And it was simply that this kid smiled at him.
It's madness, isn't it? It is mad. I've got to know where you're going. But for that, though, as well, like you talk about the challenges that come with it, were you able to pass on your take and your sort of philosophy of how you wanted to teach? And if you did, in that point, how was it received?
Yeah, so we had in the department, I think there's about 15 Thai, because I was director of studies. It was like so we had 15 Thai teachers and 15 sort of American, Brits and Canadians. And so one of my things was getting to work together, and that wasn't necessarily easy. Do you know, it's a real fine line between, you've got this strong idea about education and how you feel education should be, and it should involve the child. So you've got these strong ideas. And again, I think I've come across this throughout my career, this idea of what you want, but then you're in relationship with these other teachers, and you can't just tell them what to do. Or if you do just tell them what to do, when you're not looking, they ain't going to do it. So it's sort of hearts and minds, isn't it? I would sit and say, well, what about this? Or we could try this. Would you be happy to try it? And so, because I knew I couldn't just tell these people what to do, even though I was the sort of head of the department. So my thing was, oh, should we try this? Would you be would you be happy to give this a go? What if we do it this way and just see what you think? And if it doesn't work, and so I suppose I got into that, like a diplomat, negotiator. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And one of the things was, so in each year group, you had a Thai teacher doing English, and you had British teachers, Americans teaching English. Just getting them to sit down and having a conversation about how they were going to work that week. That would become a huge success if you just bringing them together, bring these cultures together. So I think, do you know what? Sometimes you have to compromise. In fact, a lot of the time, you might have these very strong ideas about how teaching or coaching or whatever it should be. But there's not many people, if you just sit down and tell them, this is how I want you to do it, there's not many that will go off and do that. And they certainly won't do it when you're not looking.
Yeah, 100%, because they won't buy in, will they? They'll listen because you're in the authority position, but they're not buying in. Because you're not even soliciting their engagement, are you? It needs to be a two-way thing.
I think that's a wonderful way of saying it. Soliciting their engagement is so true. I always thought, if you sit down and say, "Oh, should we try this? Look, let's do an experiment," or "What do you think about that?" And they might come back with, and you're right. It's as soon as you start telling someone something, you're right. And even if you don't see it, there's an emotional disengagement. All right, there really is, and because you're not respecting them, you're not saying, "What do you think?" or "How have you tried this before?" or "Oh, you think that? I'll give that a go." Or to me, it's the old way of, "I'm the boss, you do what I tell you." Even though it's more prevalent over there than in the West, it's still on its way out. This thing of like, back in the 70s, this stuff started. That you had child-centered education, athlete-centered. Carl Rogers. This stuff was all about, let's start engaging. This isn't an army. You're not working with an army. You're working with human beings, and this isn't now no longer post-Second World War. A lot of stuff was kind of taught as if it was an army, and it's like, no, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
70s and the 80s, it caught on in other parts of the world quicker than Britain. You think sport, football, rugby. Australia and New Zealand were way ahead of us in terms of the engagement of athletes, emotional engagement. It's taken quite a while here.
Yeah, it definitely has, hasn't it? So from Thailand, you go, how did the US come about?
So, because I was at Loughborough with Mick Smoothie.
Okay.
And Taffo and Ropesy. So I knew these guys from Loughborough, and Mick was in my year. In fact, our final year, we shared a house together. So I'd stayed in touch with Mick, writing, and then in 1998, when I got my first email account, we started doing it via email. And I said to him, I'm going to be leaving Thailand in 99. I'm going to go to America. I was looking at doing a master's in America, maybe. And he said, well, if you're coming over, why not do a couple of weeks coaching with us at the end of the summer? And, get a bit of cash, and then you can, I said, that's great. We'll have a few nights out. I'll come over, do a bit of footy, and then I can travel up to Boston and universities I was looking at. So I did that, stayed with Ropesy down in Manayunk, had a bit of a laugh there. We were out on beers and chicken wings every night. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, I had a chat with Mick. I remember meeting him in New York, and he said, well, what, are you still looking at universities? I said, yeah. He said, why not stay for the fall season? We'll get you a coaching rota up and running. I was like, okay, well, why not? I hadn't planned anything back home. Then I went back in November, what's that contract called? I can't remember where the contracts were called. Went back, and then we were in touch. He said, well, how about coming out and working full time for us? Heading up the education bit, all that. So I had to think about it. It took me a while, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like 31 years of age, no idea where I wanted my career to go. Psychology, human resources, I don't know. So I went back out for a 9-monther, and that's where 9 months, good coaching, good relationships. And I think that's where it sort of really, really took off then,
Yeah, the ironic thing about all of that, when you say you don't know what you want to do, you work a 9-month contract for UK Elite, you're doing HR, psychology, everything else without even thinking about it when you're dealing with all the people that you're dealing with. But when
100%.
when you think about this, and I know we talked, Denby, when we first got on, about you almost need a narrator or a commentator with you to talk about your life. Like, I look at this, and when I wrote this question down for you, and it was like, the reality is, Pat, you helped to lead programs for over 100,000 students and 200 educators or coaches in UK Elite. Like, how did you just take that? Like, how did you absorb that level of responsibility? Like, personally, how did you be able to manage it? Were you comfortable with it? Was it something that you were all in for, or was it something that slowly evolved?
So I think the numbers evolved. When I went out, UK had only been going for 7 years. So I went out in 99. So it wasn't as large, as it was at the end of my time there. I mean, when I first went out, there was a small office in Philadelphia, which Ropesy headed up, and then everything else was New Jersey, Yeah, I think I was very, very clear about how I thought the educational process was, whether that was in front of children, whether that was in front of staff. I think probably the only thing I've ever been clear on in my life is the idea of education and what it entails, what it looks like, what the structure, what are the ingredients of good education. Like, if you put me in front of a group or a class, it's just intuitive do you know what I mean? It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
It's just come through very clearly. And like I say, it's the only part of my life where it has. And so that bit I was really clear about. I sat down, Jonesy's brilliant bloke. He was amazing because I came out, he'd been heading it up for like a few years, albeit part-time. And I came in and sort of really took that job on. And he was nothing but supportive, really hugely supportive. And it was from him, I mean, it shows the man he is. There was no jealousy. There was no like bickering or Pat, I don't think we should. He was fabulous.
I always felt the two of you had a good dynamic, like even from an early age with me. Like I remember you two and being, did you ever think, that thing about being commanding and being, not being friends with people, but having the understanding? Like you used to do the observations for everybody, right? And you'd obviously do the pre-season and you'd do the orientation, but then you do the observations. And it was like, people had to know what car you were driving or what you were wearing that particular day, and then they'd be like looking over the shoulder when they get to a field to see where Pat is. Is he hiding in the trees? Like,
yeah.
But how do you manage that? Because I know, like, based on what you're saying, it is about the relationship with your students or who you're mentoring. But there was always that thing in the back, like, shit, there's Pat, or shit, there's Jonesy. Like, how do you be able to manage that a little bit, where to sort of soften the effect, where to put people at ease enough to do their job, but also give them constructive feedback?
Yeah, it was. It was funny. I mean, the in the trees thing. And in the end, I played to that. You see them coaching, and they'd see me, and then like they do it, and they go white. They're like, look at me, like, where the heck has he come from? Like, and then I say, all right, how's it going? And and this became almost like a parody in the end. Like it just happened. And in the end, they were like signals. I remember going to West Windsor, Hillsborough, and like someone would spot me and they'd go, oh, that's it. So in the end, for the crack sometimes, I would hide in the trees. And I maybe it might be, let's say someone called Steve was coaching. I might be in the bush here, and I might go like, Steve! And I'd see their faces, honest to God. And then I'd come out of the bush. And then he does come out of bushes. He comes out of bushes.
It's like the Homer Simpson thing. Like you would go in and then come back out. It's hilarious with a clipboard.
I mean, in the end, it was like a parody. I'd have fun, and they were funny moments. I remember once I was watching remember Najee Shatliff?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Najee still see Najee, yeah.
Right, so Najee, I'm in West Windsor, and I'm kind of there in my clipboard, and I go up, and he's got these kids, and they're going, who's that old guy? I was like, cheeky bastards. Who's that old guy there? I was like, Silver Fox, wasn't I? And Najee's now flustered because they're not paying attention to him. Who's that guy? Who's that old guy? Najee goes, he's my dad. Shut up, let's get on the session. He's dad. He's dad.
Couldn't have said like older brother or uncle or something.
Yeah. He's my dad. I said, right, that's 10 marks off. It's like a concluded paragraph that was complimentary. He's now gone for a Burton. Oh, my God. Honestly, I could write a book.
Do you feel like you did a good job of putting people at ease as well? Because I got to say with Jonesy, like I did a session and I wasn't really bothered. Not that I wasn't bothered, but I did feel comfortable with myself enough that any feedback was good feedback. But I do remember Jonesy coming through a gate once that I didn't even know existed. And the other side of the gate was a train line. So I'm like, how's he got through that gate?
Jumped off a train.
Yeah, how's he like something like a Tom Cruise film or something? Because now you're dealing with guys who are 23, 24, 25. Like, how do you get that level of comfort with them to, A, give them feedback, but also allow them to flourish in their job?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line, isn't it? And you want them to be slightly uncomfortable, right? You want them to be slightly uncomfortable. This is the thing we started with, Gary. I don't want them to think I'm their friend, right? Because I am being paid to do a job and it's quality control. And I took that very seriously. And yet I know that to thrive, you're not going to thrive if you are frozen under pressure. So the thing I had to manage with myself is if I got there and someone was doing something completely at odds with how we had trained them. So, we do an orientation and you do all of that. You spend a week and then, for example, I remember one time arriving and someone was doing laps. You had the warm up and you had the kids doing laps. And, and after 3 laps, I'm like, I've got to go and have a word. Like, where in any of our manuals or any orientation do we say warm up with laps? And you're like, how can I manage now? Go over and say, hey, let's get the balls out. How can you do that? Well, part of you's frustrated. But at the same time, you hope that you can move them forward. You hope that you can, still move that forward. So there is a bit of that. I mean, once I arrived, one lad in West Windsor, I looked over and he was like, there was 24 4-year-olds running around with one ball on a 30 by 30. And he's running around with them. And he's falling over. I'm like, this doesn't look right. He had a blue top on and red shorts. I was like, is he working for us? I went over, pissed as a fart. He was drunk. He sadly had an issue, but he had come out and and parents were there watching. I was like, so straight away, I'm like, I said, have a water break, go and have a chat. I'll get them going again. And I took over the rest of the session. You don't want to do that because it's a bit embarrassing for them. It's a bit humiliating, but to go back to your point, to me, yeah, I definitely, and when I used to sit down after the session, I found that quite exciting, saying, well, how do you think that went? And what do you think about? So I would always do that before giving my feedback, because it tells you a lot, doesn't it? When someone says, well, I could have done that better, or I thought that went well, it tells you a lot of how close that is to how you are observing. But I thought 90% of the staff did a fantastic job, worked incredibly hard. And I just wanted to support them with that. And I always believed in the potential over a period of time of them going to a whole different level. And to me, them not developing or them developing, I took that very personally.
Yeah, yeah.
I would be if I went and saw a session, I remember certain sessions where somebody had made this leap forward in their coaching. To me, it was like scoring a goal. To me, it was like watching that and seeing how they developed and the things that they were doing and the activity levels and the questioning. I'd come away, I'd be just as happy as they were. But for me, it's always bigger than that. They develop a sense that they can do something, or they can affect people's lives, or I've never seen education as domain specific.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's a lot of people who've ex-UK Elite who've done this podcast with me, and they always speak about the development and what they got out of things like that. And I think it was the standards. And there's people now, I could guarantee you that the majority of the lads have still got that 4v4 handbook. I think I definitely have somewhere, even after 20, even after 25 years. But the standards and the expectations, the way they run themselves now is definitely stemmed from that, mate. But it's good. I just can't believe that it's 16 years, right, since you went home.
Yeah.
So what was that? I mean, because you were a staple at UK Elite, you would have been there for best part of 10 years at that point. What was it like for you coming back or going back?
So I came back. I didn't go back to Wales. I would have seen that as a kind of backward move for me, really. And that's how I would have perceived it. But I came back 2009. I had quite a bad depression for the last year out in America, and it just wasn't shifting. And I knew I needed an extended break. And so I came back to Kingston, stayed with my brother for a bit. But something in me knew that I was done. Something I just knew that I was done at that point. And so I came back, Kingston upon Thames, stayed with my brother. And had no idea what to do. No idea. Plus, I wasn't in good shape. So, 5 days earlier, I was getting ready for the next orientation, but, not feeling good at all. And then a couple of family members came out and said, you're not in good shape. You should take a break. 5 days later, I'm on a flight home and it's done. Finished.
That's great. That's quick turnaround. No time for thinking about it. No time for, it was just listen, feel free to answer this, mate. You don't have to. But how does it get to that point? Did you notice early signs? Now looking back, reflecting a little bit, do you see early signs with the things that you're maybe things that you see in students that you have now or had in the past that you think, I should have checked myself on that because I missed that on myself?
Yeah, well, truth be told, I first noticed it when I was about 13.
Okay.
I first noticed then, but people didn't talk about it there. I just knew I was really very unhappy. Very, very unhappy. But I couldn't put my finger on it, like why and just like I was from a family where you just stiff up a lip, you know, it's like, everything okay? Yeah, things are okay. Or if you said sort of like, oh, I'm feeling a bit down. Oh, don't worry, you'll get it. It's that era and that kind of. So yeah, about 13, 14, I was like, something's not right here. Something's, you know. So I just plowed through, kept going. I had a little bit of an episode in my late 20s, and then yeah, it just, I guess it grew because I hadn't really dealt with it, and it grew and grew and grew and grew, and then you know it was dreadful. And yeah, I didn't. I mean, I knew I wasn't good, but I just kept going. I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't really speak to people about it either. You know, I just didn't. And then yeah, I came back, and it took. Yeah, it took a while because you know, think about it. If you got it at 13 and you don't do anything about it, and it then gets worse and worse.
Yeah,
you know,
festers.
Yeah.
Now, how was was that? I mean, because that's a tough one, isn't it? And I'm sure you probably needed that little bit of a nudge because you were like you said, you were keeping your head down, you were carrying on. Like, did the lads over here sort of get it? I mean, maybe they didn't get it at first, but did anyone kind of lean on you and help you and sort of say, listen, yeah, it might be time to take a step back?
Well, again, I mean, I didn't tell any of them.
Oh, gee. Right.
I didn't tell. So it started like about 16, 17 months before. I had this kind of like hit me in the summer of 2007, I think, or August, September 2007. And then, so yeah, it was probably 18, 19 months before I left. So I just battled through. And no one knew apart from some family back home. And then I'd done an orientation week. To do an orientation week in that state was just, oh my God, honestly. And then it was the summer. So I was then due to do one for, you know, the staff come out then, whatever you call them, the JE, whatever, the summer staff.
Yeah.
You know, and I was due to do like a week with them the following week. My family came out. So my family said, what are you thinking of? Why are you even doing, you know, and then it just said to me, you need to stop. You need to start, you know. I just went in and saw Ropesy and I said, I just need a break. I have to stop. I need a break. You know, they were shocked. Yeah, of course, the boys were shocked. But God almighty, yeah. I mean, I should have done it like a year and a half before. So when I got back, it was kind of like wit's end stuff. It was, yeah. I just remember like getting back and sitting in the park on that first day going, what's just happened? Like, I've been out there for 10 years and I kind of knew, I wasn't definite, but I was like, I think that might be it. I'm like my girlfriend over there. I had like a house over there. I had the job over there. I had nothing back in Britain, you know, other than family. And I was like sat there in Richmond Park on a bench. I was like, I have no idea what's about to happen.
What age would you have been then, Pat?
42.
Oh,
41,
wow.
42.
Yeah. That's a tough move to make. I mean, it's nice in a weird way, 16 years on now, looking back, it's a nice thing that your family were there to be able to go, come on.
Oh my
because
God.
I'm sure in hindsight, it was 100% the right thing to do. I mean, you said a year earlier, maybe, but you know, if people are picking up on it and telling you to get out of there, it must have been time to go. But from that, and that, you know, we can obviously it's a positive now because you're in the situation you're in. But what did that period do to help reshape the way that you look at things about like confidence, performance, being under pressure, you know, putting too much pressure on yourself or being in pressure environments?
Yeah, it's I read that as a possible question, which is a very good one. I mean, I've really the last 15 years,
Yeah, give or take.
It's been in and out of that place, that bad place. I think probably now, maybe this is why I've agreed to do the podcast. Is like the last 3 or 4 months have been very good, but the last 15 years have not been.
Right.
You know, that period I came back with, I've had times which have been okay, but a lot of that time has been, there hasn't been like a recovery from that time. So the last 15 years has been, yeah, not good at all. But yeah, the last 4 months has been very good. And yeah, mate, you have to dig really, you know, other people will listen to this and will, you know what I'm talking about. You have to dig very, very, very deep. And I think like I'm obsessive about like how my teaching should be or how much maths I should know before delivering a certain type of, it's my personality, is there's this like voice that's not good enough yet, that's got to be better, you need to look deeper into that. And it's can be exhausting, you know, like it can be So that's a work in progress for me, is sometimes to say, it's enough. If it's not perfect, like if I don't do something like a lesson or a coaching session perfectly, I'll agonize for the rest of the day or the rest of so oftentimes it looks like I'm quite a relaxed, laid back character, but internally I'm the opposite. I'm not that way at all.
Constantly thinking.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I've always been confident in sort of in my ability with things, but I think confidence as a person is a different thing. And I think now I'm just a bit more accepting of like, oh, if I mess up, I mess up. Confidence is like, accepting like yourself as you are, whether you mess up, whether you let someone down. I think confidence is sort of giving yourself a bit of a break and just allowing yourself to be human. And I think that it sounds ridiculous, but I think that's something like I do a bit better now. And that helps more with pressure situations. It's like, it may not go how as you want it to, but as you want it to may not be the best thing anyway. Like it's, again, all my life, it's been cathartic, therapeutic to give to others around me what I need right now. If I say to them, look, it's okay. Making mistakes is part of life. You made a mistake. It's not a big deal. Breathe. Let's go again. And I'm like, bloody hell, I'm much better at coaching them than I'm coaching me. I got to start saying these, but it is cathartic. Do you know what I mean?
It's like every therapist needs a therapist. Like, you know what to say because you're trained that way, and that's your expertise is in that. But you also, it's like the thing we say that you need a commentator, you need a narrator to tell you, you know what, you're doing all right. You're all right.
Yeah, we all need that.
Yeah.
We all. And I tell you, one of the things that it's done for me is like I've become a lot more of an open person. Like I said to you before I came back from America, I never even told my mates out there. None of them. And now it's been very humbling because sometimes I have to text someone and say, can I give you a call? I'm struggling. Or, first few times I did that, I was like, you failure that you've actually got to phone people or text them and say, can I have a conversation? You have to kind of work through it. And now that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all now just to say it's been a tough day. You fancy a chat, it's difficult times can be humbling, can't they?
100%, mate. And you definitely, I think, again, you never give, and I'm not just talking about you in general, but like, you never give yourself enough credit, do you? That your friends will answer the phone and will listen to you, and I'd be surprised if people listening to this don't give you a quick text or something or a message on whatever outlet just to say, you know what, we're here, we'll listen. I'll listen. You know what I mean? It definitely helps, but you lock yourself in a box, don't you, in your own head, and it's difficult.
It's the worst. It's the one thing I would say to anyone, it sounds like a bit of a cliche because people say talk about it. I would say talk about it to the right people. If you talk about it to the wrong people who just don't get this kind of thing, it can be very invalidating. Like for me, 95% of the people I spoke to, amazing. Some even with my own family could just say something. We'll put Netflix on. You just distract yourself. I'm like, distract myself. I want to throttle them, I'm like, go for a walk because the sound of the birds and that. I'm like, it's so invalidating to say stuff like that. It's like, you don't get it. People, do you know my belief in how good people can be? It's had that effect. People have been amazing, absolutely amazing. And I've learned a lot about human nature through all of this, and like how we are connected, and people have been incredible, and that's sort of one of the things that gets you through, I think.
That's good. So I will give you, I'll go back into the commentator role, mate, and give you a bit of a G up. When you came back, you did your masters, and part of your masters was you did a study on the All Blacks.
I spoke to so some of the All Blacks coaches, so Graham Henry, Wayne Smith. I interviewed Sean Fitzpatrick, who was a legend. I remember him bullying the Welsh every time he came down. So a good conversation. So it was fascinating, man. It was I wanted to look at the ingredients. I'm obsessed with peak performance. I'm obsessed with the ingredients of peak performance. I mean peak performance for that person or for that team, not just elite athletes, And interviewing them was incredible. Like the stories, they were so honest and open. I mean, Graham Henry, he was a Welsh coach for a few years, and then he was a British Lions coach. And he went back to Wales, he sacked him, and he went back to New Zealand quite depressed and quite, And one of his problems was, and I don't know if you've ever seen those Lions videos, but he was an autocrat. He was telling people what to do. He was like, no people skills, no, and he went back and he had a bit of time there in New Zealand. And then they said to him, they reached out and said, would you like the All Blacks job? They said, we think you would be a good fit. All Blacks is different than Wales. So he said, yeah, I'll take it. And he started the All Blacks job and he got pulled by the captain like 2 weeks in and said, what you're doing is not working. You're just telling us what to do. We don't respond to that. We need to be involved. We need to be engaged. We don't want you telling us what to do all the time. And he told me, he said it was the most humiliating and humbling experience ever. And he went away. He's like, shall I just quit? Or is it possible to change my ways? And he changed. He then said, right, from the Wednesday or the Thursday in the week, the players will run the rest of the week. The captains, the leadership team will run the rest of the week. And so he went into this kind of like devolved leadership style. They had this thing of like no dickheads allowed. They had 2 or 3 people in the setup who were kind of encouraged boozing, were bullies. Boom, they were gone. They were out. And they went through this, him and Wayne Smith, like they locked themselves in a hotel for like 3 or 4 days and came up with this like idea of cultural change, hand it to the players, train decision makers on the field. So that no longer are we telling them what to do. They on the field are working it out themselves, and it was like, it's beautiful because it sounds kind of like what I like to do. And, it sort of validates so on-field leadership, stress management, cultural overhaul. I was like, wow, this is the All Blacks. So they were going from a very top-down thing so yeah, that was amazing. I mean, that was amazing. And then I was doing a bit of maths on the side. And then after I did a master's in coaching. And then I took all these ideas that I sort of put together and did some work in businesses with business teams. And then sort of took these ideas in of how to have difficult conversations. And it was incredible. It was fascinating. Really fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's good. And but again, at the time though, you must have had conversations when you're having conversations with these guys around the All Blacks. And does it not validate a little bit where you think to yourself, well, I do that. And I don't do that. And I avoid that because I don't think it's right. And did it give you any sort of like internal validation that, you know what, I'm on the right track here? If these guys, top of their game, doing what they're doing, are doing it, and they're making mistakes, it's okay. Like, as I make mistakes every night, do you know what I'm saying? Like, does it give you a little bit nudge, or was it a case that you just didn't recognize it? I mean, either way.
No, it was the opposite. It was. Again, when I said to you, like, earlier in the conversation, when I first started teaching, I felt at home.
Yeah.
I felt at home. I was having these conversations with the All Blacks guys, and I was like, it was very validating, because the ideas that I sent them, I think I mentioned to you, I sent Graham Henry and Wayne Smith, I'd written an article on coaching, leadership, all that. I think I sent it through to you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And Graham Henry wrote back to me, and he was very, very complimentary about the article and about the different bits he pulled out. And he said, we do that. He said, I hadn't heard that went on, or that this was going on there, or really. And I was like, yeah, that was a real moment to get a message from Graham Henry, Sir Graham Henry, saying, I love this, this, and this. I was like, yeah, fantastic. And his humility, really, to go from basically, when you see him on video, he doesn't come across as a very nice bloke. You see him on the Lions video, he just comes across as a bit of a. But when I spoke to him on the phone, he was a gentleman, and he just said he was humbling, Pat, and I changed, and I've learned a lot. I was like, how good is that?
That is good. That is good.
Mm.
So now you're in a position. Am I right in this, Pat? You can shoot me down if I'm wrong. You're working with high ability students who struggle under certain pressures. Is that right? Does that sound about right? So when you first meet, is this a one-on-one thing, or is this a small group thing, or is this a class thing?
It's been different pieces. So I've gone into classes, and I've done like workshops on code breaking and various things like that. Most of it is one-to-one.
Okay. What do you see in these students when you first meet them? Like, is there certain traits they have? Is there certain like triggers that you see that you're like, right, okay, I get that, I see that, or does it vary from case to case, from person to person? Really good question. I think there's some variation, but I tell you, one of the things that's common is they believe in the idea of something being right or wrong, like binary. So you get the maths question right or wrong, your decision was right or wrong. So it's black and white thinking. And where you get black and white thinking, because I know about this, then there's stress comes with it. Stress is a sort of bedfellow of black and white thinking.
And so again, crikey, you know, I'm there speaking with them, sharing with them things that I need to be listening to myself, and asking them questions like, you know, could we? I don't know how to do this when I'm not. I was like, well, just breathe. Let's have some fun with it. And she's like, why don't I play around with it for 5 minutes? The question, why don't you play around with this question for 5 minutes? Doesn't matter if you're right, wrong. Let's just play around and let's come back and have a chat about it. And you try and kind of, first of all, you don't have to get it right or wrong straight away. Like, because most things that are challenging, you can't get them right or wrong straight away. You just can't. You've got to work things out. And then just saying, look, you've got a bit of time, take your time. And then, so I think that instantly relaxes them. And then they may come back and say, oh, I did this, 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 this. And I said, well, that's really interesting. I did this. And they'll go, why did you do that? I said, well, I was thinking if I moved this there. They said, but what about this? Isn't this right as well? And I'll go, yeah, that's right as well. And suddenly there's this kind of like, something's opened up. And because people think with maths, there's a right and there's a wrong. Of course, 2 times 2 is 4, you know, like it's not 3. But a lot of the maths as you go forward, there's different ways of doing it, you know. And so there's that piece. And then the other bit that I found really important, which is the same as like when you're coaching or when you're working with coaches, that you talked earlier about making them feel at ease. So I always start the session with like, well, what you been up to this week? I always find out what they're into: go-karting, art, footy, rugby. The first 7-8 minutes is always about that. And a crack, I might tell them a joke, or I might like do a little magic thing, or because I want them to associate me with not like maths and right or wrong. I want me to associate me with like somebody who's interested in their well-being, interested in everything else. And that seems to soften the subject of maths as well. Just that they've got more of a mentor rather than a teacher. But the black and white, Gary, I think is the black and white thinking, that's an issue. And then sometimes with some of them is executive skills. Do they know, like if you think about it, they want to go to university, they need to pass the exam. Well, for me, it's like passing the exam, it requires like knowing your maths, being able to apply your maths, but also how to structure your week and your diary so that you're managing your time.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids just can't do that. They cannot manage, you know. And then the other one is like stress management when the exam comes, like giving them some. So again, you've mentioned before, is like how holistic is the whole thing. It's very holistic. They're not just managing their maths; they're managing themselves. They're managing their selves.
And that translates into everything, doesn't it? This black and white thinking. I'm sure people, like myself included, you know, even when you're planning your schedule out, oh, I missed this time. Oh, that's it. Can't do it now. But it constantly, things are constantly evolving all the time, right? So it might be a math problem in this case, but it might be something that directly correlates with real life. And it's the same if you have that block thinking where that's it. But if you have that adaptive thinking, it's going to get you through, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Gary. And I think, so I see education as this holistic thing. I don't see it as teaching maths. To me, teaching maths, that's not education. That's teaching maths, as in like traditional teaching of maths. I'm like, why just teach that when you're with a kid for an hour or 2 hours and you could be sharing and experiencing so much more than just the maths, you know? So I think we have opportunities, educators, to make huge differences to others and then huge differences to us. I learn from every child I've ever worked with, every coach I've ever worked with.
I was going to say that to you then. Does that buzz come when it finally clicks to that kid? Not necessarily getting the problem right, but working out that it can be done another way and it isn't as straight. That must just be like, and then you even think to yourself, yeah, that's good. Because now I don't have to think the same way.
You're right. It's a kind of synergy. It's a kind of like, yeah, because I look at it sometimes and I go, why did you do it that way? And they go, well, if you do this, and I'm like, that's brilliant. How did you see that? And like, it's a shared experience then. You know, it's not like I want you to do, and which is what I had at school and probably a lot of other people. So yeah, 100% that shared experience. And when you see a kid light up, when you see him go like, oh, I get that now. Yes, they've cracked. Okay, I didn't understand it before, but maybe I do now. Those moments are special, but I don't know what word to use. But we all know.
Yeah, like
something.
I find
it's like something.
They know what they're supposed to be talking about and they can have conversations. But the best moment out of everything is when a kid comes up to me and goes, I did this in a real world setting based on what we talked about in class.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's class. That is the point. It's not so much what's written down on the paper. It's when you can when you translate that into a real world thing. It's like a eureka moment where you're like, nice one.
Yeah.
But you're right. I can't come into that realization where it's much more than just words or numbers on a piece of paper. It's how someone's going to live their life moving forward because they've learned a different way of doing something or a different perspective to attacking a problem or helping themselves out. Yeah, no, it's tough. Do you think from all this, do you think you're starting to become more in tune or more attuned to people and what they don't say more than what they do say?
So the attunement piece that attunement, I've been thinking recently about like the ingredients of like good teaching, good coaching. I obsess about it. And the one word I came up with this week when I was thinking about it was the key word, because I'm going to do some blogs on it, is attunement. I think as a teacher, a coach, whatever, it's about attunement at different levels. So it's really interesting you use that word. I don't think if you're not attuned to who's in front of you in many different ways, I don't see how you can be a great educator. I honestly don't. I guess most of all, I've seen it when I've done as in like life coaching or executive coaching. So you take life coaching and people will come in and I'll say to them, so what would you like to look at today? What would you like to change in your life or in your business or so many times, and I'm onto it now, is they start with something which isn't too sensitive, too highly charged, too important. They start with something which isn't too important because they first of all want to work out how the level of attunement with you before they want to go deeper, and I used to wait to the end of the session. I'd say like, right, brilliant, whatever. And they go, oh, there's this other thing. My wife's going to leave me. And they'd be talking about the fact that they leave too late for work in the morning. And you're working on this thing of leaving on time. And then it's the end, yeah, my wife's leaving. And you're like, okay. So what I started doing, I do it with the maths whatever first. It's like after the first 5 minutes and they say, oh, they're stuck on this one. And I say, I just want to check in. Is there anything else? Like, is there anything else you'd like to look at? Or I might do it straight away, or I might 10 minutes into the session go, okay, just want to check because we're going to go a little bit further with this. Is there anything else that you maybe, because so often there's something, and it could be with the maths. They might say, oh, can we do some multiplication? Well, they know it's not too threatening. They'd be able to, but to come and say, Pat, can we do some vectors or complex numbers? Because when they're saying it, you can see the pain on their faces because these are bloody horrible topics and they're terrified of them. And they want to get better, but they don't really want to spend an hour doing complex numbers. Who would?
No, that's true though, isn't it? Like you really have to get in. And I'll save it to the end as well, but it happens on this. My experience of doing this, especially with like, I know you, so it's different. But even though we haven't spoken to each other for a very long time, but the people that I meet on this, that the first time they see me is when they pop up on the screen. At the beginning, you find out towards the end of the conversation, they are a lot more willing to give you something a little bit more because they know that it's not a threat and it's not, and you're on the same wavelength and you're coming from a place that's understanding and you framing it in a safe environment, I suppose. But it is interesting, isn't it?
Well, you've used the two words there of threat. It's such a primal thing of like, you're not going to open up and you're not going to until you feel safe.
Yeah.
In any environment. And you're right. So if someone doesn't know you, a part of them is working you out before they're going to open up and go like deeper, isn't it?
Yeah.
God, I remember one lesson. These kids come up to me when I was teaching primary, and one this kid says, "Oh, Sinead wants to tell you something." I'm like, oh, "Okay, no problem." It's just like after school. She said that my dad's treating me like a girlfriend. I was like, "Oh, what'd you say to that?" You know what I mean?
Straight to the office.
That's above
my pay grade. Yeah.
Speed dial. But, straight away I'm like, oh, well, it's really nice that like she's trusted me. Because yes, we did. I got the head teacher, we got the mum in, but I was like floored, and we are in those positions where you never know what someone's going to say.
Yeah. And you do try and create an environment, but you've got to be careful what you wish for there, haven't you? Because if someone tells you something that's heavy like that, it's like, go and deal with it immediately.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's, I think it's privileged work, Gary. It's to work with people and work in a sort of mutual development. And what you said earlier was right. It's not about maths or history or football it can be if you just want it to be that. But I think you're then missing out on opportunities and they are too.
Yeah, I think it's too transactional. If that's what you're going for, it's too transactional and that can't be education as the whole. You're not teaching one thing as far as I'm concerned. I'm not in a position to teach anyone maths, but at the same time, I can teach them how to act and behave and adapt and try and be a little bit better than what I was, put it that way.
Yeah. And do you know what? Maths isn't even my favorite subject. I like history, theology, psychology, philosophy. I actually enjoy those things more.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But it's just what I've ended up kind of, because there's great demand for maths, and then you go deeper and deeper and suddenly you start going, oh my God, this is fascinating.
So on that then, you've got this concept, the hidden world of maths. Is that like a culmination of everything? Like, where's that come from?
Do you know what it is? It's, I've never taken things on face value, as in like, if someone says to me like, oh, I like the 4-4-2. I kind of like want to know why. I'm like, well, what is it you like? Oh, there's natural symmetry, but why do you like the natural symmetry? So I have no interest in like anything surface level. It's just, and it can be exhausting sometimes. So I like to look, like in football, I used to sit for hours and hours and hours thinking about systems and thinking about, because I wanted to really understand them. I didn't just want Alan Shearer on television telling me why a 4-4-2 is better in this game. Or I kind of like really wanted to know what's going on underneath and what's the difference between this. And I'm the same with maths. I'm the same with anything. I kind of like, I don't get interested in something until I look underneath. So like, for example, with maths, I'm like, well, why aren't there 100 seconds in a minute? Why are there 60? Why are there 100 minutes in an hour? Why is it 60? So stuff like this is fascinating to me. Like, and then you look into it, and it's like, well, back in the Babylonians, they didn't do things at hundreds, tens, or whatever. They did everything in 60s. And that's when the idea of time came along. And they had like hours, and they said, well, we need shorter periods of time. Well, let's do minute hours, minute hours. They call them minutes. And it's like, well, we need something short. Let's call them second minutes. And that became second. So I just go down these rabbit holes with this stuff. And I'm like, kind of like, and suddenly a whole world opens up about like shape of honeycomb and why is it a hexagon and why do spiders do their webs the way they do? And you start going, oh my God, and you see it all around you. You just become like, see it everywhere. So that's the idea, Gary, is like, I kind of love going underneath and then saying to kids, hey, do you know that in Britain, every town used to have a different time? And they go, what? And suddenly we're not doing hundreds, tens, and units or quadratic equations. We're kind of like doing real maths. We're doing like how numbers have developed or how. And I become passionate about that in a way I can't be passionate about simultaneous equations or about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that feels to me like that's transactional. If I'm got this equation, I show them how to do it. They do it. We tick it. I get no joy in that. I don't. But I get joy in them saying to them, like, did you know this? Or what have you got for me? And then they come to me the next time. They go, I've got a maths thing for you, Pat. And okay, we're in business now.
Oh, but again, you're engaging them. So now it's a shared experience, isn't it? It's a shared learning. It's a shared plan, motivation, whatever you want to call it. It's really good.
It's shared. It's like, it's exactly that. And it's no longer me here and them there. We're kind of in it together. We're like, oh, should we make a video? Like, let's make a video about you doing maths. I'll put it on my website. Just check with Mum, and you could be Hollywood Joe, or you could. And suddenly they're like, what? This is brilliant. And I don't want to be some guy that just sits there, shows my little equations, says goodbye, and logs off. I get nothing from that. Nothing. I get everything from shared experience. I mean, when I coached in America, my players, I used to send them a question every week. Halfway through the week, a question about mental toughness or about the game on the weekend or about what players on the team got good practice habits. What are good practice habits? Every week, I used to send an email and they would respond to my email. And I knew that by doing that, when they weren't with me, they were thinking about our team. They were thinking about the game. They were thinking about the weekend. I was like, it ties them in.
I love it. If you talk about through everything, right, Pat? So you talk about Wales, you talk about Thailand, the US, back in England. You've worked with so many people from all over, right? Colleagues from everywhere. You've mentored people from everywhere. What have all those relationships taught you?
Well, I think it touches a little bit on what we just said a moment ago. It's like without those relationships, I don't have a shared experience. So whether it's sitting with Jonesy and having a beer and talking footy, whether it's been out in the field with players and they come up with something amazing about how to play a system or the boys at UK, I'm really fortunate that everywhere I went, the management and leadership always let me run with my ideas. But I've not, right through my career, I've always had people who said, Pat, give it a go. Let's try that. What's the point in climbing a mountain on your own? Where's the fun in that? Who are you going to share it with? Like, to me, every step, I want to be like sharing with somebody else, learning from other people, engaging them in whatever I'm doing. So I just think I've been very fortunate to have come across amazing people, and I've learned from every single one of them. I don't want anything to be transactional, anything. I like the journey with other people, and I think 90% of the people I've worked with over the years have been amazing.
No, that's class, mate. It's really good, isn't it? What advice would you give to young Pat?
God, I saw that one on your. Do you know what? If I could, it wouldn't be like one thing, like, happiness is the most important, or I wish I could say to him, like, right, don't worry about success and failure, or I wouldn't want to say one thing. I would want to walk alongside him and mentor him. Like, that would have made a difference. If to have, during those times,
Commentator.
to have that, what would say, that inner guide, or that leader within, or I'd love to have been that for him. So, so the way I've been with all the kids I've worked with for my life, if I could have done that for him, because, as I say, stressed all the time, and just thought that everything was really serious. Like, everything was really, and I know I wouldn't have been able to say to him, don't worry about everything. It's not that serious, because it needs more than that, doesn't it? And so when I read your question, I was like, oh, bloody hell, I'd actually have to be back there as his commentator and help him that way, rather than say one thing.
No, that's fair. That's not a bad answer. All right, last one. What does success look like to you nowadays?
I think it's just each day, just like integrity, just living by my values. That's it. Anyone I've ever admired, I've never admired people for necessarily for a skill. No, that's not true. I've admired the skill, but the people I've really looked up to over the years are people with integrity, honesty, transparency, reliability. So those, and I think if I can just live by the values that I espouse, when I go to bed at night, that's enough. It's nothing to do with like how good I am at it sounds like a contradiction almost. Like, I want to be very good at what I do, but ultimately, like, success on a particular day or whatever is like, did I go out there and, and was I a decent human being today? Like, did I look out for the other people around me? Did I do, that's what helps me sleep at night, I think. When, and of course we all mess up, don't we?
Of course we do.
all the time. But I think that's it, mate. Just like anyone I've ever admired has been people of character.
All right. Yeah. Our last question. What does the future hold for Pat McCarry?
I think it's probably going to be more and more of what we've talked about, but perhaps, like, I think the things I've been through the last 15 years, perhaps now sharing them more. It's not been, as I said, it's not been a good 15 years. It's been very, very tough. And so a lot of the work I've done is under the hood sort of thing. So I think it's going to be things like creating videos, creating courses, and it's all going to be around, in terms of professional life, around some of the things we've talked about today, really. Personal life, stay healthy.
That's it.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Stay healthy so that I can just enjoy a cup of coffee and a good chat. That's it. Great, mate.
Pat, brilliant. Listen, mate, that was really cool. I really appreciate the time on a Friday. I'm glad you're in a good headspace. It's nice to hear that the last couple of months have been more positive. I mean this as well. Like, if you're ever stuck and there's, you're running out of people to talk to or give a text, you're always welcome to text me, mate. I'll answer the phone.
That's brilliant, mate.
There are people out there that can help you, mate. So I'm more than happy to get involved.
Can I
tell you what? Listen, one thing as well. I always do this. I've got a couple of quick fire questions. So,
brilliant.
First question: one thing you miss from the US?
I think probably the job that I had. Really, the coaching. Yeah, the footy coaching.
That's fair. First, the favourite place that you visited on your travels?
Thailand.
Solid answer, innit? I've never been to Thailand. Random one. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Interested. Have you ever seen one?
I've not, but my brother has, and he's a fighter. He's an ex-fighter pilot, so he doesn't do flaky, which is really interesting.
Oh wow, we should get him on.
Yeah.
All right. One place in the world that you still want to go?
The Basque district.
That's a
Bilbao, and Sebastian.
I know.
Food, the language, the culture,
It's
the
so
music.
fun. It's so funny. I've seen Boydie recently a couple of times, and he's been talking about it. He's been getting me all this Basque wine, so I've been all up.
Yeah, he knows his wine, and
he does.
I'm in touch with Boydie, quite regularly. Yeah,
nah, he's good people. His Boydie, he's good people. Okay, favorite Thai phrase.
So what
does that mean?
How are you?
All right, it could mean anything, mate. You could have told me anything then. It doesn't matter. Now you're back home. Crisps or chocolate?
Crisps.
Any particular?
Monster Munch.
All right, what flavour?
I like the beef.
That's a great, see? I like the beef as well. Everyone slags me for that. Everyone slags me. All right, and then the last question. This is from a number of ex-UK elite that I'm going to throw Ralph C. I'm going to throw Jay Jeffries, Matty Walker, Sonny. There's a lot of people in there. What is the most gear that you've sold in a UK elite tote on summer camp?
Jeez, I was actually quite good at that. I didn't have myself down as a blagger, but I was bloody good at that. God, I'd be guessing. I used to sell those bloody balls.
Multi-touch.
I practiced. Remember those balls?
Yeah.
I practiced, so I could really do it. But a couple of times, you know the one where you whack it out and then you let it come back between your legs and then come back out? A couple of times I did that, hit me in the knackers. I went straight down. Friends of all the parents and everybody.
Brilliant, yeah, because you had to put a song in. There was like Only Fools and Horses, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To get the tote out. Yeah.
God, I reckon I must have done about 300, 400.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah. I'd sell about 20 odd of those balls. I'd do my impression. I'd have no balls left, but...
I'll have to tell Taffo, see how much he sold. There's no way he sold as much as you, and he was a blagger.
He was. Yes, he was.
Yeah. Pat, listen, thank you so much, mate. It's been really good to catch up with you. And
you too, Gary.
Wish you all the best with everything moving forward, mate. Really do.
Absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed the conversation.
No, nice one, mate. Nice one.
Cheers, Gary.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.